The man known to history as Father Georges Lemaître was one of the most brilliant scientists of the 20th century. Although he was just a humble priest, his ideas revolutionized our understanding of the universe, and he became known as the father of the Big Bang. In fact, much of the cosmology of the later 20th century was built on his initial analysis. He was born in Chorale in Belgium on the 17th of July, 1894. This is the fascinating story of how a humble priest became a brilliant mathematician and one of the most influential scientists of the 20th century. As a young man, Lemaitre had an intense interest in mathematics, physics, and theology. After high school, he studied engineering at the Catholic University of Louvain in Belgium, but had to interrupt his studies due to serving in the First World War. After the war, he continued his studies and took a doctorate degree in maths and physics at Louvain in 1920. In the years that followed, he was ordained a priest in 1923, but continued his studies in maths and physics. In 1927, the MIT in Boston recognized Lemaitre's brilliant analysis of Einstein's theory of general relativity and awarded him a second doctorate degree for his outstanding insights. These advanced degrees, together with a study of theology, helped him to develop his very important theories in relation to the expanding universe and its origin. In 1927 also, Lemaitre used Albert Einstein's general theory of relativity to show that the universe was in fact expanding. This was a revolutionary idea at the time. Even Einstein refused to believe it at first. However, he later agreed with Lemaitre's analysis when astronomer Edwin Hubble in 1929 observed a redshift in distant galaxies, which proved in fact that the universe was expanding. 4 years later, in 1931, Lemaitre went further and developed Einstein's general theory to show that the universe began billions of years ago from a primeval atom, which later became known as the Big Bang. So this spiritual and scientific genius revolutionized our way of thinking about modern cosmology and science in general. As a Catholic priest, Lemaitre seen no contradiction between science and faith. For him, there were two separate areas of knowledge. Science is good at answering the how questions, how the universe expanded, how gravity affects galaxies, and that sort of thing. Whereas faith is good at answering the why questions. Why there is a universe in the first place, why we are here, why there is something rather than nothing, all that type of thing. Lemaitre did not even want to see his scientific discoveries used to confirm the truth of the Bible. In fact, he advised the Vatican against that approach. He believed that faith and science were two separate areas of knowledge and should be kept separate and not intermingled with each other. He was a vastly superior scientist to many of those who later tried to use science as a propaganda weapon against religion. There's no doubt that the universe having a beginning and therefore a creator completely undermines the atheistic agenda. Recently, in fact, atheistic scientists are scrambling with all sorts of silly ideas such as a multiverse, an eternal universe, and that the universe could actually have come into existence by itself. Unfortunately for atheists, however, there's no scientific evidence to support any of these daft ideas. So Lemaitre dealt a very serious blow to this atheistic agenda from which they've never really recovered. For many years, Lemaitre's work was greatly underestimated as a scientist. This is partly because he was a very humble man who never really sought publicity for his work, and partly because his original thesis in 1927 was written up in French in a small scientific journal. When the journal was actually translated into English in 1931, 4 years later, the crucial scientific proofs which showed the universe was actually expanding were left out. But by then, in 1931, Lemaitre was doing further work on Einstein's theories, which projected backwards to the primeval atom, which later became known as the Big Bang. In fact, for many years, Lemaitre's work was largely unnoticed. In fact, the term Big Bang was invented by a British astrophysicist, Fred Hoyle, to mock Lemaitre's theory. He didn't believe it at all. However, in 1948, a number of scientists who studied the early stages of the universe and the Big Bang, they recognized that if Lemaitre's theory was actually correct, there should still be detectable levels of background radiation in the universe. This was not a proof in itself, but it did set up important criteria for the future. However, a really major breakthrough in cosmology occurred in 1964 when two scientists, Robert Wilson and Arno, Penzias accidentally detected cosmic background radiation, something scientists have been talking about for about 10 years at this stage. Wilson and Penzias were working at the Bell telephone laboratories in New Jersey. They were actually looking for any noises that interfered with radio signals when they accidentally tripped across a mysterious background noise. At first they thought it was radio signals coming from New York, and then they thought afterwards that it might be bird droppings inside the antenna itself. However, after extreme testing and cleaning and changing the angle of the antenna in every direction, the noise persisted. Wilson and Penzias then did further research and made contact with a group of scientists working in Princeton University led by Robert Dicke and Jim Peebles. These scientists had further refined the noise levels that would be expected in the event of background radiation being detected, the afterglow of the Big Bang. So Wilson and Penzias realized that they had discovered precisely what these scientists had identified. This monumental breakthrough in science came just 2 years before Father Lemaitre died in 1966, so he had lived long enough to see his original thesis verified. So Robert Wilson and Arno Penzias won the Nobel Prize in Physics in 1978 for their important discovery in relation to cosmic background radiation. This was followed by Alan Gut's inflation theory in 1981. Gut showed that, in fact, milliseconds after the Big Bang, just millions of seconds, the universe expanded exponentially. After just 1 second, the universe was the size of a galaxy. This was followed further by, in the 1990s, scientists at NASA did further research on refining the age and structure of the universe. In 1998, there was another major breakthrough in cosmology with a team of scientists led by Paul Perlmutter. This research team were studying exploding stars or supernova when they discovered that the universe was actually expanding at a very rapidly accelerating rate. This in turn led to the discovery of dark energy and dark matter, which is thought to make up about 68% of the universe's total matter. In 2011, 3 scientists, Paul Perlmutter, Brian Schmidt, and Adam Rees, won the Nobel Prize for the discovery of the rapidly expanding universe and the concept of dark energy. Between 2013 and 2018, the European Space Agency done further detailed studies on the initial inflation of the universe following the Big Bang. All these studies and detailed analysis are based on the initial analysis by Father Georges Lemaître and his theories between 1927 and 1931. In 2018, the Hubble law, which relates to the expanding universe, was renamed the Hubble-Lemaitre law, in recognition of Lemaitre's unique contribution to science. So that's it for today. Thank you very much for watching, and please subscribe to the channel to see other videos like this. And I also made videos in the last couple of weeks of a similar nature. So please subscribe. It's free to do so. Thank you very much for watching.